Chapter 19 is the Kenyan Cultural Society. If anything drove me to write this book, this was the major reason. When the missionaries, the colonialists, and the Western education was introduced to us, it found us very contented people who are living disciplined and lives that were very well set by our ancestors. We didn't have problems, although we didn't know how the rest of the world was living. What most people forget is we Africans are what we are because of our environment. Our maker made us a country and a continent, and he placed it at a place where we had conducive weather and climate. Comfortable. You have only to travel to Europe and down to Australia to know how lucky the continent of Africa is when you remember the equator passes at the middle of the continent. Our climates are wonderful. You can be born today and not bother with putting on anything from 1st of December to that 1st of January to that 1st of December, and you'll survive. Go to Europe. You find they have long winters where you can't even go out of the room. Wonderful or terrible climate. You make a mistake to go out your house and you come back and your fingers will be cut because they are already numb and they are not part of you. But we Africans don't do this. So, because of the vagaries of climate and weather in other continents, they have to think and plan how to survive. We Africans don't have to do that. We can forget it. I go to the bushes, get berries, and we are at home. That's why they say what we say about us. But let them give a message. We are the most loved by the Creator if we have the same Creator or we share the same Creator. He really favored us in as far as life is concerned, as per my understanding. We had our culture and cultures as per the different communities that we were. Every community had their own culture before these people came in. And when they came in, they disoriented us that we abandoned our cultures, our morals, our ways of life, our rules and regulations of life, and adopted theirs. They more or less forced us to do that. And to an extent, we also did it or went deeper in spite of ourselves. This we could not help. Because what we looked in the white man is what I would call modernity. They were modernizing us. And when we look at the fact of modernity, we are born to embrace modernity. Anything that makes or looks better to you, you embrace it. So, you can't blame us for trying even. You know, when I look around and see our ladies trying to bleach their skins, become whites, and there's no way you can change your color. You are black, you should be proud of it. Instead of imitating on trying to have long hair like the white people and such, it really gives me punch on the tummy when I see people doing that. Africans, we must be very proud. But back to the subject, culture is very important. And when you read this chapter, which I have canvassed in detail, I've even told you how culture came about. I've even told you where history came about in this chapter. I've told you what laws are made of. Laws are creatures of ethics. Ethics is a subject that you can't learn from anybody. You learn it as you grow or you go through the ages, your age. The older you get, the wiser you become. And the more adept and knowledgeable to ethics you get. So if you look at an old man and think you're cleverer than him, you're wrong. Years teach you so much. The life you live, the older you become, is something that comes to you and you learn. And these changes that you see and go through are what we call ethics. Ethics are what forms culture. Culture must be embraced. Culture, when a group of people lives together, they must create some rules so that their life will be meaningful. And these rules are the ones that guide their culture. So what we are missing here today is culture for all Kenyans. To bring all Kenyans together, we have to have and embrace the same culture. And this we are missing. We have a good constitution, the 2010, and in it, at Article 11, it says that the constitution and the law are as enacted by our parliament, chapter, or the parliamentary chapter law, chapter 33, spells out that they recognize the community cultures. But all these community cultures are dormant today because everybody has been taken over by what I've described in the family chapter. There is no Kenyan who will tell you that today we have tribes or we have community differences. How can we have community differences when in every family you find today, you find the son will marry a daughter from another tribe. A daughter will be married by a son from another tribe. And today, all Kenyans are intertwined. We have no problem any longer on tribal differences. They only are brought by the current leaders, especially the presidential candidates, when they want to bring or cocoon their tribal followers so that they can get what they need from them, the vote for them to be president. When you come to the legislative candidates, you find they don't have that problem. But the problem comes to us when we are talking about choosing the presidency because of the current leaders who have taken the same concept of the colonial leader who ruled us by dividing us and eluding us. And for your information, I won't have finished this book if I don't tell you that even the worst crime that was committed against the black man, the slavery, the person I personally believe is the black man himself, because the way they used to trap and catch those black people to be taken into slavery, it's not the white men who used to go to the bushes to look for them. It was the fellow black men and the chiefs and the leaders who were going, because they are given some sweets and prayer things here, they go for them and they sell their own sons and they go into slavery. When we come to today's leadership, you find when a leader wants to remain in a place, he goes giving out handouts, and you find, because those below him do not remember that when you come to an office, a certain office, you swear to respect and defend the Constitution and the laws. But the minute you come there, you find a CS talking about, I will do whatever the appointing authority tells me that's wrong to me. You do in accordance to the rule of law and what your office is meant to do. In fact, we will never get anywhere if we don't have a culture to bring all the citizens together and then go back to the normal integrity of the individual. If you are given a job, you are not given of being favored by whoever is witnessing your kind of swearing in or such. That job is yours for you to do the best you can in accordance to the rule of law of the country. So, read this chapter and you see what I have to say about the culture and the necessity. All these people who are talking about inclusivity and such in politics, which I am not really privy or willing to talk about, and I haven't brought it into this book, are wrong. Because what can bring people together is nothing else but what I have canvassed here in this chapter, the culture for all Kenyans. Let all citizens be brought together by a single culture made out of all the cultures. We pick the new beings and make one culture for Kenyans, for all Kenyans. Now, on page 131, I have also chosen a song by Kamaru. Please listen to it. Itiema Wamami by Joseph Kamaru. And listen to him, what he says or what he tells his younger brother about him and money. You don't have to pray money. Money is not your God. You get a lot of information from Kamaru's song there. And I'm glad to know it. I've also given samples of cultures that have lived for so long. This chapter, something like the Jewish culture as really as an example, and also the Russian culture, communism. Then in chapter 20, I have, it's about rules and regulations of the culture or the cultural society. These ones are so essential, and they are the ones that are lacking and that are making people today ignore the laws that are legislated by our parliament. But rules and regulations of culture are not necessarily bound or put together with the other laws. These are essential rules of the family unit and the individual, which I insist. And I've given here the areas where you should touch and include in the rules and laws that you make. The best way is to make a panel to run that cultural grouping, and they will also make sure that it goes on the way it should, like the rabbis in the Jewish case and so forth, and the Kremlin in the Russian face. And that ends my narrative. With a good culture, we'll find ourselves in good setting. Thank you very much for listening to me.